want to bring in Batya Ungar Sargon, opinion editor over at Newsweek and the author of Bad News, How Woke Media is Undermining Democracy. Batya, good to have you back with us.
Thanks so much for having me, Vince.
Hey, Tim Burchett didn't say anything wrong there in terms of the facts. It is true that President Biden did say that he would prioritize picking a black woman as his running mate. But you think this is a poor strategy to emphasize that going into this election. Why?
Yeah, there are a lot of things that are true about Kamala Harris that I would urge anybody who wants President Trump to win, including President Trump himself, not to talk about. And the reason for that is simple. President Trump has a historic achievement to brag about, which is about 40% of black men are polling for him. Mm-hmm. And the truth is that you can activate somebody's racial or ethnic self-identification by attacking somebody in a way that just feels gross, even if it's true. And I know this because there are things that someone could say to me about Bernie Sanders that, if they rang a certain way, I would start to defend him as a Jew. And there is just no need for that because it would undermine this absolutely historic effort that President Trump has accomplished, which is to make this race a referendum on the American dream. Mm-hmm. And I know that seems unfair, right? She is, of course, a DEI hire. She is, of course, a mediocrity. She's one of these lab-grown Democrats who doesn't believe in anything, But I would just urge anybody who wants President Trump to win to be pitching what they're talking about to the great American center who wants to believe that we have gotten past our racial history, which I believe that we have. People should not give the left any fodder. Let their accusations of racism fall flat. Yep. Because you're doing such a good job keeping your side of the street clean. That's my plea.
Well, pointing out that she's a mediocrity is definitely not a racial point, for sure.
No, not at all.
Her time as vice president of the United States has been, as you point out, abysmal, which means that there's plenty of very good material to rely on as we talk about Kamala Harris. Her failures at the border alone, given that she's been the border czar, that's a priority for the American people. If we go back to Mitt Romney running for president, it was always a subject of some fascination that, okay, so you're going to choose the guy who was basically the inventor of Obamacare in Massachusetts to run against the Obamacare guy himself, Barack Obama. How much sense does that make in this presidential election? And so now when voters are prioritizing the border, the left is actually going to make their so-called failed border czar their nominee. I mean, what more could Republicans ask for?
That is exactly right, Vince. I just got back from the RNC. The feeling there was electric because the entire pitch that President Trump is making to the American voters is we are not running against anything. We are running for the American dream because I know how to give that back. Do you know that President Trump was the first president in 60 years to shrink the wealth gap in America? He knows how to make the economy work for working class Americans. He has such a robust record to run on that, you know what? He could totally take Kamala Harris at her word because she's bragging about what she stands for. Yes. She stands for pronouns in the bio. She stands for an open border. She stands for redistribution and higher taxes, right? She stands for everything that working class people don't like and don't appreciate. Climate, right? The question of this election is, do the American people believe that we should be immiserating the working class on some sort of climate agenda, right, to cater to elite tastes, or do the American people believe that you cannot have a stable middle class without affordable energy and you cannot have a democracy without a stable middle class, right? Yes. Just debate her on the issues. The thing about the Republicans is they actually have the winning position if they would only realize it.
That is, it's an excellent point. I will say, though, you and I would be fooling ourselves if we thought that Donald Trump wasn't going to bring up various aspects of Kamala's very grating personality as he runs against her. He won't be able to resist. You're right. Policy should be first and foremost, but Kamala Harris is so intensely unlikable that I do kind of harken back to President Trump running against Hillary Clinton in the first place. I think there are a lot of similarities there that will lend themselves to Trump having an advantage as he runs against Kamala now.
Yeah. I hope that when he takes on her personality, the audience that he is picturing is the millions of black men who really hate her, right?
Right.
Make those jokes in a way that they are included in them. Because let me tell you, Vince, I walked into the gym this morning at 6:30, and there was a young black woman and a young black man behind the counter, and they were arguing about this. And the girl was saying, "I really like Kamala Harris," and the boy, and I live in South Brooklyn, the boy was saying, "I really don't like her, man. She never even identified as black until it was politically expedient. She always said she was an Indian, you know?" He's like, "I would never vote for her. I wish Joe Biden had stayed on the ticket." That is who the jokes should be aimed at. And, just that is who he should be picturing.
It is weird, isn't it?
Taking it on.
I agree with that young man, with the exception of his support for Biden. But what you just said is right. It's funny how the left likes to talk about, the right is so racist. And I want to explore this point with you in a moment a little bit more. But the idea that they would flatten Kamala Harris down from not a complex figure, not somebody with an interesting familial history and all sorts of diverse ancestry. Instead, they flattened her into simply black woman. That's the way they represent her, with a capital B, of course, soon to be a capital W. Black woman, and that's it. Isn't that just like the most amazing and obvious thing that the Democrats have ever tried to pull off?
No, absolutely. And, Donald Trump has been making this amazing appeal for unity. Actually, it started a long time ago. I started noticing him saying, "I am running to be the president, not of half of America, but of all of America, whether you're black or Hispanic or Jewish or Asian or white, I am running to be your president." And I think that should be the message. They are running on division and divisiveness. They are going to call you racist for not wanting her. "I am your man. I see us all as united." He had this beautiful line. People probably missed it because it was at the end of his RNC speech where he had been rambling for a while already.
Sure.
But he said, "As long as we are fighting and at each other's throats, we cannot achieve our true destiny as Americans." And it was such a beautiful line. And I really think he believes that, his appeal in the Bronx was so powerful. He was looking at that multiracial audience and at some point just started explaining to them how to start a business. Like, he was like, look around you, look for what's missing, take risks, but be smart about them. Like, he just started addressing them like peers, like people who really just need opportunity, but want to rely on themselves and want to make it in this world. This is a man who clearly sees himself as like a person who, he believes all of this. It's so authentic with him. And that's what I really want to see. I want to see the Democrats try to divide us based on race. I want to see the Democrats tell a hurting working class that they should vote for this rich black woman because she's a black woman, even though she's offering them nothing. Let them make the racial appeal and let the other side take the high road.
So I want to address this racial appeal aspect, because the left does view things through a racial lens almost exclusively, actually. And it's quite unfortunate because they have a long history of sowing division on that basis. And here what I'm seeing is that Democrats are inclined to choose, as Kamala Harris's running mate, a white man, they say, because America's too racist to let her run with anybody else. And here's, for instance, the Telegraph. It's U.S. coverage. The headline: Kamala Harris will pick white man as running mate to boost election chances. Kamala Harris is set to become the Democratic presidential nominee and is likely to pick a white man as a running mate to boost her chances in key battleground states. Steve Schmidt, a Democrat-affiliated strategist, told Puck News on Monday, quote, "It can't be two female candidates. It can be, but I don't think that's going to go. So it's going to be a white male candidate," he says. So Democrats are, and it's amazing, they're so open about this. Their position is that America wouldn't go for two women, and America won't go for anybody that if there's not a white person on the ticket, they're not going to go for it. What do you think of that kind of analysis coming out of the left right now?
I just think it's so disgusting. I can't tell you how many, swing staters in Midwestern towns have told me they wish Condoleezza Rice would run for president. Like the idea that it's about that there's some sort of opposition to somebody based on some immutable characteristic is just a fever dream of the left. They've made everything about race and gender because they don't want to admit that they're rich. They don't want to admit that they've been the beneficiaries of income inequality. And so they talk about race and gender endlessly to try to cast the other side as like hopelessly racist.
Yeah.
Because they don't want people to look at their actual record and realize that they have been running on destroying the American dream for basically 40 years now.
On the top of the list right now, one of the people on the top of the list to be Kamala's running mate is Governor Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania. CNN's John King noticed that Josh Shapiro is Jewish, and he said this may be a problem for Democrat voters. Listen to this.
Pennsylvania's Governor Josh Shapiro is being discussed as one of Harris's potential running mates. He also endorsed her tonight. In your view, what are the pros and cons for putting him on the ticket?
Well, he's certainly under consideration. I know that from key Harris allies. He's a first-term governor. He's Jewish. There could be some risks in putting him on the ticket, but certainly some of our voters here in Pennsylvania said, hey, we like Governor Shapiro. Give him a look.
He's Jewish. There could be some risks with putting him on the ticket. Now, if I was to be really generous to that audio, I would say maybe he was talking about some other aspect of Josh Shapiro that's risky, but it certainly sounds like he's suggesting that his Judaism is the problem.
Well, if I was being very generous, I would say he's admitting that the left has a problem with Jews, right?
True.
But there isn't a Republican in this country who would have a problem with a Jew. I think Republicans might want to know if somebody is a believer, right? Does he believe in God, right? Judaism can be an ethnicity as well as a religion, right? So saying someone's Jewish doesn't tell you if they believe in God or not, right? That's a fair thing to want to know. But the idea that some Catholic or Protestant American in the heartland, or in the South would have a problem with a Jew is nonsense. He might be right that progressives might have a problem with a Jew like Josh Shapiro, who has not called for a ceasefire yet. Honestly, I like Josh Shapiro a lot, and I hope he stays far away from this ticket.
Yeah, no, and by the way, our guest Batya Ungar Sargon, not shy at all that she has very, well, I should say iconoclastic political views these days. You're not easily placed, but you do tell the truth a lot, which is why we like you so much.
Thank you, Vince. Right back at you.
Always good to talk to you. Batya Ungar Sargon, our excellent guest over at Newsweek. Thank you.